every artist has their own unique voice. And according to Jessalyn Prin's article published on the Medium's blog, we actually don't create that voice. Instead, we discover it. We find it, we become aware of it. Just like our personalities being shaped by socialization and our unique upbringing, our creative voices are shaped by our own unique experiences and stories. So finding our own unique creative voice can definitely be hard at first, especially in the age of social media. Jessalyn writes, more often than not, we can't hear our voice because the voices of other artists seem louder than our own. The voices of rules, the voices of trends and styles and types all blend together to create a jarring sound, all fighting for our attention. And we, not knowing our real voices, fall in love with all of these sounds. We try to duplicate and replicate and are pulled back and forth from this style to that one, all the while feeling frustrated because we know we are playing the role of copycat while our own voices are muffled under the onslaught. Then comes the comparison and the self-deprecation. I wish I could be as good as they are, or I wish I could create something like that. But in reality, you actually already have your own creative voice and unique perspective. Instead of thinking that you need to create your voice, change your perspective to wanting to unleash your voice. Now that you're ready to start creating, here are 7 practical tips to help you unleash your creative voice and find your unique creative identity. Hi everyone, I'm Tabs and welcome back to another video. So I totally learned my lesson from my last video. I know that the sound was not the best, and now I did my makeup, but also I have a better light and I'm filming in the daylight, so hopefully it looks a lot better and sounds a lot better. So I'm just gonna go straight into the tips on how to find your creative style and unique creative voice. So tip number 1 is to take a break from consuming art. So stop scrolling through Instagram and TikTok, stop watching endless YouTube tutorials, stop reading literary prose, stop taking workshops looking to be inspired, not for forever, but just for a little while. So when you're constantly seeing other people's work, elements of their work will start to creep into your own work without you even knowing it. You won't even have the chance as a creator to develop your own creative style. Clear your mind of all of the online noise, grab the stuff that makes your heart happy, take a step back and just allow your creative vision to emerge. Something that I will say over and over and over is to take a detox. Taking a break and connecting with your surroundings. Either if that's a walk, or you're going out with your friends, or you're eating some really good food, or even playing a sport, you'll find inspiration in your conversations, or maybe a cluster of clouds that you see in the sky while on your walk. Literally anything. If you haven't seen my video on how to get out of a creative slump, I also have a ton of tips in that video on how to boost your creativity without scrolling on Instagram or TikTok for some inspiration. So tip number 2 is to hone in on your message and allow yourself to be vulnerable. I know that this is easier said than done, but I feel like your art depends on your vulnerability. Okay, so right now, I want you to whip out your notebook and take some notes because I'm about to start asking you some questions. So here are a couple of questions that you should be asking yourself. What story are you trying to tell with your art? What are you trying to convey with your art? Is it a particular vibe? Is it a political message? Is it a specific emotion? Is it to inspire some sort of action? What emotion does your art evoke? What does your art say about you? How does your life story and personality influence your art? I'm not saying that you need to come up with one single specific message and stick to it forever. Your art is just as nuanced as you. So think about how you'd want to express that nuance within your art style or even across mediums. So once you come up with a couple of answers, let those pieces of expression or your specific message inspire you to create something out of pure emotion or thought. Write down some ideas in your notebook and then you can always return back to them when you're ready to create more or if you're ever feeling stuck. Tip number 3 is to create and create some more. So you need to be making a lot of art. Feel free to dump or art vomit whatever you want during this part of the process. Even if you're not sure about what you're doing or you think that something that you're creating might be bad, creating a lot of work can help you hone in your skills and then eventually help you work out what makes you tick as an artist. You'll start noticing patterns in your art. For example, if you love using alliterations like me, or even a very specific sentence structure, or if you're into design, you might find that you really like a specific color palette, or you love using a very specific motif or a subject matter, like rounded corners or even like a floral pattern. I think that during this process, it's really important to find ways to stay motivated. Like in my last video about how to get out of a creative slump, I think that when you're in this part of the process, maybe even setting like a specific day out of the week to make sure that you are creating art, or even going to your favorite park or a cafe, like a designated space you have where you can just create, or promising yourself a reward every time you filled up a sketchbook or something, just something that's like, okay, I want to do this. I'm going to stay consistent in my creation so I can really find out what my creative style is. One thing that I found helps me for this particular tip is to habit stack. And I'm sure you've heard of habit stacking before if you follow a bunch of others like self-help people, but habit stacking is basically when you're already like set in habits, you just stack on a new one that will help you get to a new goal. For example, I recently just got into junk journaling / bullet journaling, and I really wanted to junk journal, but something that I also really needed to do and get better at was just like my organization. I'm very visual with my organization, so I also took up bullet journaling. I am basically just stacking these things and calling it a junk bullet journal. Now that there's something that I want to start incorporating, like journaling or being more organized, I'm stacking that onto my already like passion of junk journaling. And now I have the cutest, most cohesive and like very pure expression of my artistic style, like visually, in my bullet journal, and it is the cutest thing ever. But the point is to find something that is already in your routine and stick another thing that you really want to incorporate into your routine on top of those habits that you already have. Okay, so tip number 4 is probably really obvious, but it's to experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment with your art and widen your art experience before narrowing in on your focus. Try new ways of working and don't be afraid to mix mediums. You might have dismissed something that you might actually fall in love with. And just because you used to really love painting flowers and watercolor doesn't mean that you like it now. Tastes change, and that is okay. So when I was growing up, I used to love all things creative. I used to want to be a ballerina when I was younger, even a photographer. I also wanted to be a pop star, like a singer and a dancer, a journalist, an actress, like literally you name it, I low-key really wanted to do. Throughout the years, I actually did get to experiment with all of these things that I found like an interest in. My parents put me through dance lessons, they put me through voice lessons, I even had piano lessons. They got me that camera that I really wanted when I was in middle school. I obviously loved everything that I tried, even though all of them were like very different art forms. But experimenting with all of these things really helped me find my unique creative voice and perspective and translate it into different mediums. Okay, so tip number 5, analyze and gather up everything that you created. And yes, I mean building out like a portfolio of everything that you've made. So once you've spent some time experimenting with your art, it's time to narrow your focus. This is when you can decide what is going to be like your thing. This could be that you're going to focus on a specific subject, or it could be a particular medium technique. I also don't want you to box yourself in too much, because when I mean your thing, it could be really broad. Like maybe your thing is even just like using a very specific type of paintbrush, or your thing is like a very specific color palette. At this point, focus on creating your thing for about a month or so. During this time, you might find that you really love taking pictures of architecture or illustrating cute characters or even shading with like a crosshatch technique, literally anything. After the 30 days, reevaluate and then continue, or if it's just not working out, try something new. I just want to talk about my like design aesthetic whenever I am making my own visual art rather than like writing. So a lot of the things that I gravitate towards are pastel and or muted colors. I don't really gravitate towards bold colors, but also I really like a minimalist look. When I'm creating art for myself, I realize that that is my thing. But so when I was doing nail art more consistently, I found that my particular thing and design aesthetic was to use really bold colors and incorporating textures. That's why I feel like it's hard to put yourself into a box when I say like your thing. It, like I said, like a translation of your taste into different mediums or different art styles or even for different audiences. Okay, we are finally on tip number 6, and that is to study up and refine. I know that this might sound like a backwards way of trying to find your art style, but I think that after all of those steps, right now is the perfect time to expose yourself to a wide variety of different kinds of art, especially to get inspired from a lot of different art disciplines, not just in your own field. For example, if you're a writer, you can look towards design or photography. If you're an illustrator, maybe you can look into live action films. So now start to collect things that you just find beautiful or that resonate with you on an emotional level. In time, you'll notice patterns and themes within your collection, all pointing to what resonates with you. These patterns can help inspire you in a way that you have never even thought of before. So I suggest keeping a record of all of these things that you find inspiring, either digitally like Pinterest, which I absolutely love, or in a physical form like a scrapbook or a diary or a junk journal. So now take your learnings and refine your work. Do not completely change your art. Think of it as like a filter, or like I've mentioned before, like a translation. Let's say you really loved a film director's specific style. So then just think about how you might translate that style into your own artwork. Tip number 7 is to be patient and allow yourself to pivot. Your tastes might change. That is completely normal. And that just means that your style might change too. Like I said in the section about honing in your message, you are nuanced, and it would be very weird if your art did not reflect that. Allow yourself to switch things up. Creating art is obviously not just like a one and done type of deal. It takes years of practice. The thing that will truly set you apart is your personality and your message. So if you find yourself struggling a little bit, just remember why you create your art in the first place, what your message is as an artist, and who you are as a person in this world. I am not going to lie to you, like being an artist and trying to remain consistent and to follow artistic rules is so tiring, and it's hard, especially if you want to experiment and try new things. I think that that is like the best part about being an artist. All in all to say is that experimentation is normal, it's fine, and that is literally one of the best parts about being an artist. So in conclusion, you've always had a very unique creative identity and artistic voice. You just need help unleashing it. Embrace your voice in all forms of expression, through your life story, through your experimentation, your successes, your failures, through the joyous parts, through the struggle city parts, through all different mediums and styles that you love. This is supposed to be fun. Creating art is supposed to be fun. Don't forget that. So if you've learned anything or taken anything from this video, or if you would like to share your own creative journey, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Plus, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and put on that bell notification thing so you're alerted of whenever I release a new video catered to creatives just like you. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and I cannot wait to see what you create. See you all in the next one. Bye!